This NFL season has been a bit weird. The Colts are 7-1. The Ravens are 2-5. The Jets are 1-7. Yeah, well, that would kind of make sense. Regardless, this has been a pretty weird season. And since we are about halfway through the season, I want to give every team a grade based upon how they have done so far. I want to emphasize this is just from week 1 till week 8. So could a team get better after this? Yes. Could a team get worse after this? Yes. But I am strictly judging teams based off their week 1 to week 8 performance. First up, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to give the Cardinals a C-. The Cardinals are such a weird team. They started off the season 2-0 with wins against the Panthers and the Saints, and then they have gone on to lose 5 games in a row. Kyler Murray has been out the last 2 games, and Jacoby Brissett has been actually playing pretty well. So what's going on with Arizona? Me and the Cardinals have 2 big issues. The first issue is their rushing game is basically non-existent. They rank 20th in rushing yards, and when you're thinking about rushing yards, you have to equate for Kyler is also running. But when you think about it just from strictly a running back's perspective, they do not rush the ball well at all. And if you can't rush the ball well in NFL, that makes your pass game a bit more one-dimensional and stagnant. Number 2, their defense just has a tendency to completely crumble in the fourth quarter for some reason. If you look at all of the Cardinals' losses, they haven't lost a singular game this season by more than 7 points. For some reason, when the fourth quarter hits, they just completely forget how to play football on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know what happens. Next, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, as an Atlanta Falcons fan, I realistically want to give them an F because this is my personal team and I have not been happy. But realistically, they're probably like a C-. If you look at the Atlanta Falcons roster on paper, you say, hey, that seems like a pretty good team. But then you go out and you watch the Atlanta Falcons, and they just don't make sense. The Atlanta Falcons have dominant wins against the Vikings, the Commanders, and the Bills. But then you look at their losses. They lost 30-0 to the Panthers. They lost 10-34 to the Dolphins. And you're just like, what is going on? I can make an hour-long rant about what's going on in Atlanta, but to me, they have 2 major issues also. The first issue is their offensive game plan is way too linear. I just don't understand what Zach Robinson is thinking when he's calling plays. I believe it was the 49ers game and they were like 3rd and 1, and I believe Bijan was on the bench. That didn't make any sense. And then for 4th and 1, they ran a play out of pistol. Why are you running plays out of pistol on 4 and 1? You're putting your running back and further back. I don't just run from under center. And then you have plays where you're throwing tight end screens to Kyle Pitts. That's not in his repertoire. That is not what Kyle Pitts is good at. Why are you throwing screens to Kyle Pitts? Number 2, an issue that's really reared its head with the Atlanta Falcons is that they're really bad at rush defense. They're great against the pass. They have a great pass rush. But for some reason, when a team is rushing a ball against them, they just don't know how to react. Next up is the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm also going to give them a C. The Ravens are a team whose record is worse than what the team actually is. I think when Lamar comes back, they'll obviously be leaps and loads better. Their defense has been playing way better, but early in the season, you saw that defense was having a tough time. They just could not stop anything. They were giving up way too many points. You have the offense trying to get you back in the game, and then you have those costly turnovers from Derrick Henry just fumbling the ball. The Baltimore Ravens have been playing a lot better, and I think when Lamar gets back, they'll be completely fine. And that division is still wide open, so I mean, it's very possible for them to win that division. Next up is the Buffalo Bills, and I'm going to give them a B. For me right now, the most impressive Buffalo Bills game was week 1 against the Ravens. But since then, a lot of their wins have just been to me. And don't get me wrong, like they don't make the schedule, but their strength of schedule really hasn't been anything. The Patriots was probably the best team they've faced, and they lost that game. And then you have that game where they go in and they just look awful against the Falcons and they lose that game. Like they've been doing okay, but I would like to see them face off against some tougher competition to see how they really react to that. Next up is the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to give them a C+. The Carolina Panthers are very similar to the Falcons with me, where every week is kind of an odd situation where you're just like, the Panthers are weird. Here's a good example of that. They go and they beat the Falcons 30-0, and you're like, wow, the Panthers are really good. And then the very next game, they go and get blown out by the Patriots, and you're like, what are the Panthers doing? They are a really beat-up team right now, but honestly, they've won more games than I expected them to win so far. So I think they're doing okay. Next up is the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to give the Bears a B. I think the thing that's been the most impressive for me for the Bears is how okay they look on the offensive side of the ball. They're running the ball well. They're throwing the ball well. Their red zone is like they could work on like their red zone efficiency. But the biggest problem with the Bears right now is their defense just is not good. They give up 6 yards per play, which is ranked 30th in the NFL. And I also believe they give up like 3 touchdowns a game, which is like 28th or something in the NFL. The defense just has not been playing well. And the offense always has to kind of match the firepower of another offense. And if they can't match that firepower, you get games like that Detroit game where they just get completely blown out. Next up is the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to give the Bengals a D. I understand that Joe Burrow is hurt, but the Bengals have had the same issues with this team for the last 3 years, and they have done nothing to fix it. Their offensive line has been terrible. Joe Burrow stays hurt because he can't stay upright because the offensive line can't block anything. The defense gives up like 100 points a game. So defensively, they aren't doing anything on that side of the ball. And then you just watch the Bengals and you're just like, there's some days where the offense is clicking. They got Joe Flacco in there. He's been doing better. Why did you waste your time playing, what is his name? Jake Browning for like 3 weeks? Why? He clearly looked terrible. Why didn't y'all trade for somebody earlier? I just don't really understand the GM of the Bengals. There's a lot of things wrong with the Bengals team, but I'm like, okay, bro, it has been this many years. Why isn't the GM really doing anything? I just don't understand the Cincinnati Bengals. Next up is the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are going to unfortunately get my first F. Look, defensively, the Browns have been fine. They've been honestly better than fine. But on the offensive side of the ball, they literally cannot do anything. I just don't understand the whole offseason with the Cleveland Browns. You draft Dylan Gabriel, you draft Shedeur Sanders, you get Kenny Pickett, you got Joe Flacco, you got the massage man still on your team, you start Joe Flacco. He doesn't look that great on the team. You switch to Dylan Gabriel. He doesn't really look that good on the team. And I'm sorry for you Shedeur lovers. I think Shedeur is great too. But Shedeur would not look great on this team either. There's a lot of issues going on with the Cleveland Browns that need to be addressed. The wide receivers all look pedestrian. None of them are ever getting open. If you watch a Cleveland Browns game, the wide receivers aren't doing anything to help the quarterback at all. Poor little Dylan Gabriel be looking there. He just be like, bro, what's going on? Does he get some of the blame? Yes. He has some terrible decision making. I just be like, bro, what are you doing? But the wideouts are definitely not helping the offense at all. The Cleveland Browns are still in a rebuild, so I'm not going to be too tough on them. But offensively, they just don't look good at all. Next up is the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm going to get a Cowboys a C. For me, the Cowboys are a team that if you look at just their offense has been playing pretty great. Dak has looked great for the majority of the season. CD has looked great when he's healthy. Pickens is starting to get into a groove. They're running the ball well. So what is going on with the Cowboys? Defensively, the Cowboys rank almost last in every statistical defensive category. They are pretty much 31st in everything. And if they're not 31st, they are 30th or 32. That defense constantly is getting cooked. They're terrible against the pass. They're absolutely terrible against the pass. They're not good against the run, but their biggest problem is A, they cannot generate a pass rush, and B, they cannot cover anybody on the defensive side of the ball. So if the Cowboys can somehow do something about their defense, they'll be okay because their offense is really great, but their defense is really bad. So then you have like this weird little swivel where like they just kind of balance each other out, which is why I'm giving the Cowboys a C. Next up is the Denver Broncos, and the Denver Broncos are going to get my first A. I'm just going strictly off an eye test. I have no stats to back this, but just from me watching football, the Denver Broncos has the best defense in the league. If you watch a Denver's Broncos game, bro, their defense is relentless. Their pass rush is incredible. They're like some hungry wolves trying to get your quarterback, and they always get there. Offensively, I think the Broncos are okay. Their passing game could be a bit better. Just overall, their offense could just need some work. But the thing is, right, when you have a defense that's so great, your offense doesn't really have to do too much. And that's kind of been their mantra. Where the Broncos kind of lose games is when the defense isn't playing like exceptionally well, and you kind of have to get in like some sort of shootout with another team. Then that kind of falters because you're putting everything on like the Bo Nixon offense, and they're just like, we can do a little bit. But as that offense continues to get better, they're going to be great. They're doing a lot better than I thought they would be this season. The thing is, when you have a defense that's as great as the Broncos defense, your offense doesn't really need to do that much. And if you look at the Broncos' losses, it's always really close. So offensively, they do need to work on closing those games. That's really going to matter when you get to the playoffs because, like, you lose a close game in the playoffs, your season's over with. So they really got to lock in offensively about closing out games. But offensively, you feel pretty good when you have that monster defense backing you up. So the Broncos have looked incredible. Next up is the Detroit Lions, and I'm also going to give them an A. I mean, honestly, I don't have much to say about Detroit. They've essentially been looking like themselves. They have had 2 games where you're like, and that was against the Chiefs and against the Packers, I believe. But honestly, they don't look like they're missing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn that much. So, I mean, they just kind of look like they looked last season. So, they look the same. Next up is the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to give the Packers an A. Jordan Love probably the best game of his season. The problem with the Packers that I have is they're really inconsistent in play. When they're playing in sync, in cohesion, and the offense is clicking and the defense is clicking, they look like the best team in the league. But the problem is there's a lot of times where they have drives and you're just like, what was that? They're really inconsistent on both sides of the ball, which worries me as we get through to the playoffs. But I'm not worried about that. Judging by just how they've played up until now, they've played really good football. Yes, they have some wonky wins or losses against like the Browns. They really have looked pretty good in every game they've played. So I think they look fine. I'm going to give them an A. Next up is the Houston Texans, and I'm actually going to give the Texans a B. Now, you remember what I said earlier about the Broncos? You can essentially apply the same thing to the Texans, where their defense is really, really good. And to me, they statistically have the best defense. I think I prefer the Broncos defense over the Texans, but I would have the Texans defense as number 2. Now, like I said, similar to the Broncos, they have a really good defense, but the offense just has not been clicking as well. Texans are such a weird team because I've watched only 2 of their games, but the games I've watched, you look at their offense and you're just like, what is the problem? I don't know if it's a scheme issue. I don't know if it's just they're not really in sync with each other. But sometimes I'm just like, I feel like this offense should be better than what I'm seeing. Next up is the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm giving the Colts an A+++. I cannot believe what is going on with the Colts. Going into this season, literally none of us had the Colts as being really this good. I think a lot of them had them being like middle of the pack, kind of lower tier. But the Colts have, without a shadow of a doubt, been the best team in football this season. Fault the Colts for their schedule if you want to. But the thing about the Colts is they aren't just really beating teams. They are definitively beating the hell out of teams that are put in front of them. Jonathan Taylor looks as good as he's ever looked. This is the best Jonathan Taylor season I've ever seen. Next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm going to give the Jags a B. I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of media hates on the Jags a little bit too much. I get the criticism with Trevor Lawrence. He is really inconsistent at times, and sometimes you'll see him do things and you're like, come on, Trevor, you're in 5th year. What are we doing? But also, it doesn't help that his wideouts don't really give him much help Brian Thomas Jr. is not what they thought he would be. I wouldn't give up on him yet. I think it's just one of those things where he has to get over the rut. We saw what he can do when he's performing at a high level. He obviously can get back to that high level. They just got to believe in him and give him a little bit of time. To me, the biggest issue with the Jags right now is they are so undisciplined. They get too many dumb penalties. Way too many dumb penalties. And two, they aren't really that great against the pass. Their rush defense is pretty good, but against the pass, they really aren't that good. Those are their two major issues, in my opinions. If wide receivers can catch the ball and give Trevor a little help, if Trevor can kind of calm down on the dumb mistakes that he's making, they get disciplined and stop creating like the dumbest penalties in the world. I think the Jags will be fine for the rest of the season. Next up is the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm also going to give the Chiefs a B. The Chiefs started off the season pretty rough. They lost Xavier Worthy. Obviously, Rashee Rice was out with his suspension, and they just didn't look good. They had 2 bad games, and people were like, oh, it's the Chiefs dynasty over. It's Travis Kelce washed. Those first 2 games, they've been playing really well, and they've been playing even better when they got Rashee Rice. My biggest concern going into the city with Kansas City was their inability to rush the football. Happy to report, this season they've been pretty decent at rushing the ball. Now, I'm not going to say they have one of the best rushing attacks in the league or anything like that, but you don't need to be the best. You just really need to be solid when you have Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't need you to be extraordinary. He doesn't need you to be one of the best backs in the league. He just needs some type of production to where he feels like he doesn't have to throw the ball 45 times a game. Yeah, they've been looking great on both sides of the football. My thing with Kansas City is similar to the Jags. They make a lot of dumb penalties. They're like almost towards the bottom of the league in penalty yards allowed. They have to stop committing dumb penalties. Next up is the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm giving the Raiders an F. At this point, I'm starting to think the Raiders just might be cursed. Going into this season, I had like medium hopes about them. I liked what they were building on the offensive side of the ball. I like Pete Carroll. I'm not huge on Chip Kelly, but I thought maybe they can work. And they just have not looked good. They are last in the league in passing yards. They're last in the league in total yards. They are almost last. I think they're 31st in rush yards. They are literally almost last in every single offensive category. Look, getting Brock Bowers back will help, but I don't really think that'll dig them out of the hole they're currently in. It feels like the Raiders have been in a rebuild since I've been a kid. Obviously, Geno Smith isn't the answer, so I'm thinking that they're going to have to look at QBs in the next year's draft, which I'm really not high on a lot of the QBs in next year's draft. But I just don't know what to say about the Raiders, man. The offense on paper looks really fun, and they just have not been producing at all. Next up is the Los Angeles Chargers, and I'm going to give the Chargers a B. The Chargers, to me, are the most inconsistent, confusing team in the league besides the Falcons. Just don't understand them. Some weeks, they look absolutely incredible. And I'm like, is this the Chargers' year? But then they have games where they just look, I don't understand what happens from week to week with the Chargers. It's either they come out, they look incredible, or they come out and they look ass. There's no in between. Next up is the Los Angeles Rams. And I'm going to give the Rams an A. I need y'all to understand. Matthew Stafford was drafted by the Lions in 2009. I was in the 7th grade. I live in Georgia. I watched Matthew Stafford at UGA. I am now 29 years old, and Matthew Stafford is still playing football at an incredibly high level, and it doesn't make any sense. Defensively, the Rams have looked a lot better than I expected. Jared Verse is an absolute dog. Matthew Stafford is still playing at a high level. He's still distributing that ball to everybody. If I had to say what I believe the Rams are struggling with right now, is they really don't have a run game. I don't know what's going on with Kyron Williams, but he just has not looked good. He's had 2 fumbles, I believe, that have just been at like the worst possible time. And I just don't know what's going on. If they want to progress further in the postseason this year, they really have to do something to address that rushing game, because you can't have Matthew Stafford throwing like 52 passes a game. You really need somebody that can go in, get in the trenches, and rush the ball. Oh, God. Next up is the Miami Dolphins. and I'm going to get a Dolphins an F. I don't care that the Dolphins beat the Falcons. They have looked absolutely terrible on all sides of the ball all season. Tyreek gets hurt. He's smiling. He's happy to be out of there. Tua's throwing 4 or 5 interceptions a game. Mike McDaniel was just going on the podium and just saying whatever. Hey, man, I don't know what's going on with the Dolphins, but I would assume after this year, they're blowing everything up. Sucks to see because a few years ago, the Dolphins had one of the more fun teams in the league. And since last year, they have just been trending downwards. They have paid Tua a lot of money, so they're kind of stuck with Tua unless they just kind of bite the bullet on that. Who knows? But this first half of the season has been as worse as you can possibly get for an NFL football team. Next up is the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm going to give the Vikings a C-. The Vikings' problem is pretty clear as day. They don't really have a quarterback. J.J. McCarthy has been hurt, and when he wasn't hurt, he wasn't looking that good. Carson Wentz was in there. He wasn't looking that good. They don't run the ball at all. Like, they're last in the league in rush attempts, so they just choose to actively not rush the ball. Even though they don't really have a quarterback, so I don't know why they choose not to rush the ball. Offensively, the Vikings just aren't really giving you much. I personally think they should go and trade for a QB, because even if J.J. McCarthy comes back, he wasn't looking that good when he was healthy. So you might want to get somebody in there as kind of a, backup and intangible plan, or what, contingency plan, is that the word? I don't know. You need something back there, man, because they just offensively do not look good. Call up Kirk Cousins, tell him to throw back on a jersey. Let's get something cracking. Next up is the New England Patriots, and I'm going to give the Patriots an A. So can the Patriots just have a singular decade where they aren't good at football? As long as I've been alive, the New England Patriots have been great at football. And I'm thinking we're finally about to enter an era where they're going to be trash. They're going to be a trash team for the next couple of years. Because, yeah, I'm salty. I'm a Falcons fan. 28-3 happened. All right? So I'm thinking they're going to be trash for the next couple of seasons. They come into this season, they just look incredible. Bro, stop. In all seriousness, I've been pleasantly impressed with the Patriots' defense. I did not think their defense was going to come out this season and look as great as they do. And when your defense is playing that great, it's similar to a Broncos situation where offensively we don't need you to do much. But the flip side of that is the Patriots offense also gives you a lot. So you're getting a lot for both sides of the football. Drake May has played great football, which I thought Drake May was good, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. Diggs has been playing really well. I didn't think he was going to come in and kind of be as great as he has been before. So yeah, they just look great, man. We can't escape the Patriots being good, clearly. Next up is the New Orleans Saints, and I'm going to get a Saints an F. Look, going into this season, I don't think any of us really expected the Saints to be good. To me, they had a very weird draft where they drafted Tyler Shaw when I thought there were a bunch of better quarterbacks that they could have drafted. And they just didn't. And now they have Tyler Shaw, they have Spencer Rattler, and they don't look good at all. I don't really know what else to say about the Saints. What I do like about the Saints, though, is they gave Spencer Rattler the first half of the season so they can see what he can do. The Saints have essentially accepted that they aren't doing anything this year. So why not let both of these QBs go out and let's see how they look. They let Spencer Rattler go the first half of the season. And what I like about the Saints team, too, is they fight, all right? I'm giving them an F because they're 1-7-8. They don't really win. But if you actually watch them, they fight, bro. They don't just give up. So they give teams fights, even though, they know, they probably aren't going to win. But I respect the direction that the Saints are going in. I just wish they drafted a better QB to kind of lead the team and build upon that in this next year's draft. Because now, essentially, if both of these QBs don't work out, you're back at square one. Next up is the New York Giants, and I'm going to give the Giants a C. Giants have a bunch of injuries. Neighbors is out. Scatterboo is out. And I want to say that I was a Scatterboo believer before everybody else. I watched him play at Arizona State, and I was like, this man is a crackhead. I called him before everybody else. So when he got into the league, I just want to say that I was a Scatterboo believer before everybody else. But regardless of that, this is a fun offensive team to watch. Defensively, they don't look good, man. They have too many moments where they just give up way too many big plays. That Broncos game was absolutely atrocious. I'm going to forgive the offense here for a second. Neighbors is out. You lost your best offensive weapon. Now you've lost Scatterboo. You really ain't got much on the offensive side of the ball. But your defense has been absolutely atrocious. They aren't stopping anything. I'm disappointed in the output on the defensive side of the ball. They just have not looked good. Next up is the New York Jets, and man, I'm giving the Jets an F. The Jets have been really disappointing to me because going into this season, I thought offensively they weren't going to be anything great. I thought they would be okay. I'm a Justin Fields believer, bro. I believe Justin Fields has some good football in him, but it just has not been clicking. And I think what's disappointed me the most with the Jets right now is their defense. The Jets have had a great defense for the last couple of years, and that defense just does not look the same. Sauce Gardner does not look great this season. Really, nobody on that defense looks great. And it's one of those things where I know all of them guys are great. They're fantastic, and they have the capability to play at a high level. But something just isn't clicking. I don't know if it's the scheme they're running in. I don't know if they're just tired of being on the Jets. I literally don't know what it is. But you see that defense, and you know those players can play better than they have been playing. So I'm mostly just disappointed in the Jets because I know that they can be a better team. They definitely are a better team than 1-7 on paper. I think they have players to be better than 1-7. Just something is not clicking. Next up is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going to give the Eagles a B+. The Eagles are the only team in the NFL that can be 6-2 and still got controversy about people not wanting to play there. The Eagles don't really play a pretty style of football, right? Jalen Hurts ain't about to give you 400 yards. You ain't about to see 300 yards rushing game. But the thing about the Eagles is they win. And that's kind of Jalen Hurts' mantra. A lot of people try to put Jalen Hurts down because they're like, oh, he's not a top 5 player in the league, or he's not a top 5 quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball downfield. He's a game manager. Anybody can do that. Here's the thing. The whole purpose of football is to win games. Jalen Hurts did not pick where he wanted to go. He was drafted into Philly, and they have done a great job of building around him. And now he's in a position where they don't ask him to do too much. He can, if he needs to go out there and sling the ball, he can. He's shown that he has the capabilities that if he needs to, he can go out and sling the ball. But when you have a little monster back there named Saquon Barkley, you don't really have to do too much. Eagles have had some ugly games. That's typically just Eagles football. They just have ugly games, bro. But they have managed to win a lot of those ugly games, which is why they sit at 6-2. I am a bit worried about that defense. I don't think that defense is as great as it was last season. There are some holes in that defense to where I'm like, when we get to postseason, that might be a bit concerning. But for now, they're 6-2. They're sitting pretty. They ain't winning pretty games. They're winning them ugly, but they're winning them. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm going to give the Steelers a B. Steelers are a perfect example of why statistics really don't mean much. If you look at the Steelers statistically, you would think, without knowing their record, you'd be like, this team is like, they got like 2 wins. But somehow, some way, the Steelers keep playing these ugly games of winning. They're very similar to the Eagles, where when they win, it ain't going to be pretty, but they're going to get the job done. My biggest concern as it pertains to the Steelers is that defense has not looked as dominant as it has in the past. Aaron Rodgers looks okay, but he makes some weird little dinky plays where I'm like, that don't really make sense. But their biggest Achilles heel offensively is their run game is just basically ineffective. Your run game is ineffective. You are essentially asking Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball a lot, and you don't want to ask old Aaron Rodgers to have to throw the ball a lot. You're supposed to put pieces around him to where he doesn't have to do much but manage. If he needs to have a vintage Aaron Rodgers game, he can. But they really need to work on a run game. Once again, a very weird team that really displays why statistics aren't important. Because they're winning games. But statistically, you'd be like, what the hell? San Francisco 49ers, I'm going to give a B. If you told me 3 years ago that Mac Jones would be starting for the 49ers, the team he should have got drafted by the way, and he was actually playing pretty well, I would not believe you. I'm going to be quite frank here. I have not watched a lot of 49ers this season, but I know they're riddled with injuries. That's literally just, I feel like the 49ers always have injuries problems, but now the thing is like McCaffrey is healthy, but everybody else isn't. So I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of 49ers games. I did watch their Falcons game, and they looked, it was basically just Christian McCaffrey obliterating the Falcons. So I can't honestly, in good faith, tell you what's going right and what's going wrong with the 49ers. All I can tell you is that I'm quite shocked that Mac Jones is thriving. They are really impressive with all the injuries that they have. And yeah, they look pretty good. Next up is the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to give the Seahawks an A. Seahawks offense has been great. JSN, listen, I'm arguing he's top 3. You might put Amon St. Brown at 3. You might put CD, but I'm arguing that JSN ain't out of top 5 at least. So offensively, they have been looking good, but that's not really what I love about the Seattle Seahawks. Ernest Jones in that defense, bro. Is Ernest Jones that trade one of the best midseason trades that happened last year, bro? They got him for such a good price. They got him for Jerome Baker and a 4th round draft pick. And he has come on this defense, bro. He had that defense. You just have to watch the Seahawks, right? You literally do. It's a similar thing when I watch the Broncos, where they just play a style of defense where I'm just like, ooh, them some dogs. Like, they some dogs over there. Offensively, obviously, Sam Darnold looks good. They're looking good offensively. But I want to show respect to the defensive side of the ball because defensive players don't really be getting loved like that. Seattle defense is great, and I don't see enough people talking about them. Speaking of dogs, next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to give them an A. To me, the Bucs are a team that have not reached their full potential yet. I have been so impressed by Emeka Egbuka, bro. He is right now my offensive rookie of the year. I think Tez Johnson is still arriving, and he's looked good the time he's played. They still are without Bucky Irvin, so when he gets back, he's going to contribute, and he's going to look great. They are still without Chris Godwin. When he gets back, he's going to look great. Obviously, they did lose Mike Evans for the rest of the season, so that is a blow. But I think they have enough pieces to come in and fill in, and they'll still be okay. This team is – I hate that I like this team because they're in the Falcons division. I hate that I like Baker because we have to see them 2 times a year. But I've watched the Bucs, and they are just very entertaining. They're just fun to watch. They're similar to the Giants. They're like a better Giants. They're just really fun to watch. And they have not reached their potential because they're still missing quite a bit of players. So when they get them players back, they're just going to get better and better and better. And they're just going to continue to be fun to watch. And they're just going to continue to have shootouts. And I just really like this team. Tennessee Titans. I'm going to give the Titans an F. Just all around the Titans just are good. Defensively, they don't look good. Offensively, they don't look good. Cam Ward is going on the podium just straight out saying their ass. They've already fired their coach. There's a lot of things to work on when it comes to the Tennessee Titans. You have to understand, right? They had the first draft pick last year. Typically, if you have the first draft pick, you aren't going to see a turnaround the very next season. It is rare that happens. I think people have gotten so accustomed to teams just getting a quarterback and being like, oh, we're going to compete. That isn't the norm in the NFL. Yes, you will have those special cases where a QB can come in and just turn your whole franchise around. But this isn't a case where they needed just one thing to be fixed. There's a lot of things to work on with the Tennessee Titans. Yes, I think Cam Ward is a great foundation, but there's a lot of things that need to be worked on. They're a younger team. They will continue to get better. I think they really need to have a very impactful offseason. This season is clearly cooked. At this point, start trying out some different players. Start trying out those third stringers. See how those guys look. But they're going to really need to have an impactful offseason to start building around Cam Warren. Just right now, this is one of them seasons where it's just like, you're in the trenches right now. Titans fans, you're literally just in the trenches. And finally, we have the Washington Commanders, and I'm going to give the Commanders a C. It's a team going into this season I was really high on, and they just haven't really done much for me. I know Jaden Daniels was injured, so he missed a few games, but my problem is defensively, they just cannot stop the pass. They don't look good against. There's too many big chunk plays they give up. I don't know. This is just a team that's just kind of disappointing to me right now because I know they should be better than they are, but they just aren't. So I think the trade deadline will be a big thing for them. They need to go in and get some pieces on that defensive side of the ball because right now that is killing them. There you have it. That is my rankings for every NFL team halfway through the season for the year 2025. Let me know in the comment section if you agree, if you disagree, if there's points that you want to make. Let me know in the comment section below. There's a lot of teams that I could have went more in depth for, but in order to save this video from being an hour and 30 minutes, I try to keep it pretty bare bones, but I feel like I got my point across for a majority of the teams. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Which teams you think will get better, which teams you think will get worse. Who knows? As always, everybody, enjoy watching the NFL and have a great day.